If you're here, it means you probably signed up for a Spartan Ultra race or you're thinking about it. And if you don't know what a transition bucket is for, let's break it down. First, a Spartan Ultra is 50 kilometers. It involves doing 2 laps, or normally what's called the Ultra Beast. This means that your first lap is going to be around 29 or 30 kilometers, and then your second lap is going to be the normal Spartan Beast course. But what do you do with your nutrition? Do you have to take it all on you for that whole 50 kilometers? No. And that's exactly why we have the transition bucket. So when you run a Spartan Ultra race, your first lap is going to be comprised mainly of the original Spartan Beast loop, but there's going to be something called a Ultra loop on it. That's what's going to make up your total of 30 kilometers. Now, when you head out from the start line, normally around 6 a.m., you're going to have to carry whatever you're going to want for those first 30 kilometers on you. But when you come back around, instead of doing the fire jump and finishing, you're going to go into something what's called the transition area. That's where every Spartan Ultra racer gets to leave their transition bucket. This bucket is going to serve as your crew or your logistical help, because you can't receive any help when you're out on course and no one can give you more gear. So you have to make sure that you have whatever you want for your second lap in your transition bucket. So how do I pack my transition bucket and what exactly is inside it? Well, let's take a look. I will always take a double set of everything that I'm carrying on me. All of this is going to go into my transition bucket. And that means whatever I'm taking for my first lap on course, I'm going to have a spare set for nutrition, locked and loaded, ready to go. Whatever I'm wearing on me, clothes, my vest, my bottles, my shoes, all of that, I'm going to have an exact duplicate set in my transition bucket. And on top of that, I'm also going to make sure that I have all of the necessities in case something happens. This being a medical kit with Tylenol, stuff for blisters, stuff for chafing. I'm going to make sure that I have extra chafe cream that I can run with, stuff for pain. I have sunscreen and stuff for bugs. If you've ever run a Spartan race before, you know when you're out on course, nutrition and hydration are going to make or break your experience. You have to make sure that you can fuel every 30 minutes, maybe a certain amount per hour, and you definitely need to stay on top of your electrolytes and your hydration. But how do you do that when you're running 50 kilometers? Well, what I do is I will carry in my vest that I'm running my first lap a base set of nutrition. I'm aiming for anywhere between 60 to 90 grams of carbs per hour, anywhere in the range of about 300 to 600 calories per hour. And then on top of that, I'm making sure that I have about 300 to about 600 milligrams of sodium per hour, depending on how much I'm sweating. And I make sure I have my water. I'm not too concerned about the water. I just pack my 2 bottles because there's enough water stations on course that I can fill them up and keep running. The thing that you won't find at those water stations though is food and electrolytes. So you have to make sure that what you're bringing on you is going to sustain you for your first lap. I personally like different kinds of bars. For the majority of the race, I normally stick to easy digestibles, things that are quick to kind of get down and then keep going. However, after a while, I've learned with endurance running, I like solid food. This is where I alternate between things like True bars, Cliff bars. I'll even bring naan that's already cut up, and I've even seen people do Mr. Noodles that they've pre-made, put into a bag, and they're just eating that as they run. For my easier digestibles, I like the energy blocks. I mean, I've seen candy, I've seen fruit, I've seen everything out there on course with people eating it. You have to make sure whatever you're eating works for your gut. Even if you bought everything that I had on this table, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. So you need to make sure that you spend some time finding out what's going to work for your GI when you're out on the mountain putting out that exertion. I like honey stringers. We have a local shop, Adventure 365 here in Sudbury, where I can pick everything up. They stocked up on a whole bunch of honey stringers, so that's what I happen to be running with. But again, I've got a lot of race time using honey stringers, so they know they work. That meets my simple carbs. My bars meet my more complex carbs. I personally will use for salt and electrolytes, I will use Liquid IV, or I will use the Salt Lick tabs. I find that these work better when I'm just getting tired of drinking salty drinks. These don't have a taste. I can pop 2 of them, especially if I'm already starting to cramp, knowing that I'm behind on my electrolytes. These work really, really well. But these can cause my stomach to get upset, especially if I don't have much on it. Whereas I find drinking them mixed with a little bit of sugar and everything else within these go down well. Again, it's going to come down to what your stomach is used to. The only other thing I will make sure that's with my nutrition, specifically my nutrition, is a mustard packet. If you know you're gonna be out doing one of these races, go stop by a restaurant or a fast food place that you know carries these and just grab a couple extra for the road. They're horrible, horrible to have on course, but if you are suffering from those severe cramps, one packet of mustard will go a long way and it's almost a magical fix. So what I do is I've built my calories and my macros, as well as all of my electrolytes, between solid food, gels, chews, whatever have you, to get me through the first 30 kilometers. I take an identical setup of that first lap nutrition and I'll put it into a freezer lock bag. This is to mitigate that time that I'm gonna sit in transition. I know when I run in, so long as I don't have any blowouts in my gear, I can open my lid, I can dump my trash, I can grab my bag, and I can head back out. It really is that simple. The number one biggest piece of advice I could give for anyone looking at doing an ultra is that almost all DNFs happen in transition. Just because you have a bucket, just because you're gonna be grabbing gear, does not mean that you need to sit down, rifle through everything, and let your body cool. The best piece of advice I can give you, have everything set up so that you can grab it quickly and get back out on course. Aiming for less than 5 minutes, ideally that 2 to 3 minute mark in transition, and get out. Every single time, and I've seen this time and time again with my ultras, you run in there and you see someone sit down, that 2 minutes becomes 5, that 5 becomes 10, 10 becomes 15, and then they walk off course. Now, should I have an issue, my shoes are broken, I rip my shirt or my shorts, I have a bottle failure, or I need to switch something up, that's when that second set of gear comes into play. That is when I'll start to doff whatever I have on me, grab my new gear, don that, and again, head out about as quickly as I can because I don't want to spend too much time in transition. The urge to sit and just take a second is so high, but those seconds become minutes, those minutes become DNFs. So set yourself up for success by getting everything prepped, easily accessible in your bucket, and know what you have inside of it. So when it comes to spare gear on course, like I was saying, I carry a duplicate of everything that's gonna be on me. Now, over the years of racing and just getting out talking with people who have done the Spartan Ultra races time and time again, I am not one to change my socks or my shoes. Even if it is a wet course, so long as my feet are holding up, I don't take them off. One thing that you're gonna find if you haven't done an ultra before is your feet are gonna swell. They'll tell you, if you take your feet out of your shoes, good luck ever getting them back into them. So what I will do is I'll carry, like I said, a set of shorts, another shirt, some spare socks, and I will carry an identical set of my Solomon runners that I'll use for course, but I will only ever go into these if I have a blowout of what I'm currently wearing. So just because I pack these does not mean that I'm gonna need them, but it's one of those things where I'd rather have them and not need them instead of need them and not have them. Because you're gonna be very hard pressed to find a runner who's gonna give you another pair of shoes when you're out on course. So these are gonna be at the very bottom of my bucket. They're not what I need readily accessible, so I put them down at the bottom. I'm gonna layer on top of that my spare running backpack, a couple spare bladders, a spare camelback depending on how thirsty I am. Am I really sweating a lot? Is it really hot? Am I just finding that, I want a different setup instead of carrying bottles on the front? Do I wanna have a camelback instead? So I carry that packed on top of my spare shoes and my clothes. Then what I will do is I will have all of my ouch pouch stuff in a freezer lock bag. That will be stacked on top of all my spare gear. And then on top of all of that, I will have my second lap nutrition. And the only thing that isn't here, and it's been a kind of tried and true tradition that I do for my ultras, is I will have my wife write me a note. I don't get to see it, I don't get to read it until I'm on that second lap, but taped on top of my lap 2 nutrition will be the note. It's kind of a nice pick-me-up. We started doing it with the first one, and it, like I said, has become a tradition. It's nice when you get out for that second lap, you're beating yourself up mentally, maybe you're having a hard go, or maybe you just want something that's gonna make you feel good for a little bit when you're running that second lap, going up the hill again. I will tape that on top so I know as I put in my nutrition, I can head out reading that note, and I will have that note with me for my complete second lap. Again, just to take your mind out of those pain caves when you do get into them. So a couple extra tips though that I feel just need that little bit of extra explaining. Most Spartan races in Canada, and I can only attest to the Canadian ultras here, they say on the website that you have to go do your transition bucket drop off the Friday night and your race packet the night before. In the years that I've been doing it, I have never done that. Saturday morning, race starts at 6:15. You have to be there early for registration anyways. That's normally when you're gonna get your race packet pickup. That is when you will drop off your bucket. If you're wondering about where the transition area is gonna be located when you're out on the course, when you get there for your registration, there are going to be volunteers that are gonna guide you towards where the transition bucket drop-off area is. They're gonna give you directions at the start line before you head out about how you're supposed to finish through instead of going through the fire jump, where you're gonna go to go directly into the transition area, and then how you're gonna proceed out to your second lap, as well as they're going to be volunteers that are out on course that are gonna be looking for anybody wearing one of these, and they are gonna direct you to where your ultra loop is. There's a lot of apprehension that goes out there when you're doing your first Spartan Ultra, and I can tell you it is very clearly marked. The volunteers are there to help you, and the transition area you're gonna have access to. Only ultra runners are gonna have access to the transition area to get to your bucket, so you don't have to worry. My best suggestions for a bucket, kind of Gucci it up the way that you want it. I will set my bucket up in an area in the transition, or in a spot in the transition area that's going to be more streamlined for me to run in, grab my stuff and run out. Because I don't spend a lot of time in transition, I don't want to be having to sort through where I put my bucket, how many other buckets in the way, are there 8 people sitting around my bucket and I'm kind of trying to step over them. I try and find a little secluded spot in the transition area, set my bucket up the way that I want, so that when I run through, again, it's seamless. I grab what I need, I put away what I don't, and then I just head back out. So make sure that your bucket is marked up the way that you want, make sure it's set up in an area that you like, and get some practice opening and closing it, because some of those Home Depot or Canadian Tire buckets, the snaps are really hard to get off. Make sure that you've spent some time, because the last thing you want to be doing when you're tired, you're sore, is fighting with a bucket just to get at the nutrition that you need to get out for your second lap. Other than that, there's not too much else that goes into a Spartan Ultra transition bucket. Make sure that you have enough nutrition for your first lap on you. Make sure that you have the same amount of nutrition for your second lap. Make sure that you have something to deal with those spur of the moment issues. Again, I will carry chafe stuff with me out on course because I want to deal with that right away, not deal with it later. Some people like to carry their Tylenol or whatever else on them. I prefer to go lighter, so I will have it for my ultra or my transition bucket so I can use it for my second lap. And spare gear. Again, it's not a priority. You shouldn't be planning to have to change your shoes, change your socks, change any of your stuff. Put it at the bottom, but make sure that you have it. Because again, it would really, really suck that your shoe breaks, you limp through your ultra loop, you get into transition, and you don't have a spare to go and do your next 21 kilometers with. Other than that, the ultra race is a long game. You're there for a long time, not a good time. So just plan accordingly. Have some fun with it. Make sure that you're prepared and go out there and crush it. I really hope this helped. I know this was a dirty crash course on what's in a transition bucket. But if you have any questions, if you want more information, shoot me a message or leave a comment down below. I'm more than happy to reach out. I love doing these Spartan races. I've done enough ultra races now to know what works, what doesn't work. I love talking to other racers about what they're doing, to pick up new tips, to share ideas. So reach out. Like I said, leave me a comment, like this video. Maybe I'll see you out on course.